We apologize for missing our WRO from last month, but flooding operations took over, and now Chris, Jeff, and I are back to get you all caught up on where we have been and see what we can expect as we approach summertime in the Southeast in the May edition of the Water Resources Outlook. Convective season is right around the corner, much closer for those in Florida, and I can imagine they are looking forward to it. With the exceptionally dry weather they had so far this year and the wildfires that have cropped up, rain will be a welcome sight in the coming months. While the Carolinas wouldn't mind taking a break from all the rain they have seen recently. Jeff, why don't you get us started with the climatology?
So here we are in mid-May, and we see that the last 30 days of observed precipitation tell two stories. In the Carolinas, we still see evidence of that heavy rain event in mid-April that brought moderate to major flooding to that part of the region. And then we see the Florida Peninsula, in which some parts have not seen much rain at all. And we see the departures from normal here, showing again more than 4 inches above normal across the Carolinas for the last 30 days, primarily with that one big event in April, while we also see Florida indicating at least an inch plus below normal.
So, to have a little context on the climatology, I thought it would make sense to show the normal rainfall expected for May through July. May sort of ends our spring frontal rainfall season as we transition into the convective season. Convective season should be in full swing in Florida during the June timeframe and then work its way north and west into July. While we have a lot of confidence that it will rain in Florida, the convective wet season is not as reliable as you get further inland. We will talk more about that next month in our June Water Resources Outlook. This graphic depicts the normal rainfall in Orlando, Florida for the year. As you can see, the accumulated rainfall slope begins to sharpen by May 15th and lasts all the way through September, where it slows down. Again, that's showing our rainy season. This usually happens regardless of the tropical season activity. Jeff is going to show us some similar graphics describing our conditions at various cities across the Southeast.
Okay, thanks, Todd. So when we take a closer look at specific locations, we see here Birmingham, Alabama, and Atlanta, Georgia. Areas pretty much near normal since the beginning of the year. That one big event in early April has been a big part in staying close to normal for these two locations. Now we look at Columbia, South Carolina, and Charleston, South Carolina, and we see Columbia with some large step-ups on the chart indicating some big events since the beginning of the year, and that's kept them above normal, while closer to the coast, a long dry period there from late January through early April has kept Charleston in the deficit since the beginning of the year. Looking at Raleigh, North Carolina, and Roanoke, Virginia, we see Raleigh was fairly dry from February through mid-April, and then we had a big rain and flood event in mid-April, and that helped them jump to above normal. We see this as well in Roanoke. A wet April and early May has helped them overcome their deficits. Moving south into Florida, we see Jacksonville and Orlando, areas deep into deficits at this time since the beginning of the year, with little to no rain since late winter, so they are really waiting eagerly for the convective rainy season to begin here, hopefully, in the next several weeks. Tampa, the same issue, really have not had the rain they need since the beginning of the year, but Miami, a different story. They have been fine when it comes to rain and consistent rain. As you can see, they have been right near normal all year long. So what has this done to stream flows? As you can guess, well above normal across most of North Carolina and southern Virginia, near normal in South Carolina, and really below normal elsewhere, with well below in central Florida Peninsula. This following pretty much in line with the precipitation deficits. And the drought has followed these deficits. Like I said, we have seen improvement in many areas, but drought spreading in others, like the Florida Peninsula and South Georgia, where we see some parts with extreme drought. Note the extreme drought in central Florida there, south of Orlando in the Kissimmee River Basin, which is a primary feeder into Lake Okeechobee. And with drought this time of year, you can also get wildfires, and that has is what we've been seeing. Here's the latest fire potential outlook for May, and we see above normal potential here across South Georgia and the north and central portions of the Florida Peninsula, pretty much in line with the drought areas. So droughts and fires. What about floods? Here we see the latest flood climatology updated now through 2016 and see that this time of year for the Southeast as a whole is a fairly quiet time, typically when it comes to river floods. We have come out of the primary river flood season, and now we have to wait for the secondary late summer tropical season for river flooding to begin. The one exception to this is the Florida Peninsula, where river flood season begins generally in June when the rainy season begins. We see the river flood season really is in mid to late June and lasts through September for the Florida Peninsula.
We're beginning the period with high pressure over the Carolinas and low pressure to the west. There will be some showers and thunderstorms along the periphery of our area, further away from that area of high pressure, but we'll see more widespread rainfall as a cold front approaches this weekend. The front will be well into the area by Monday, and by midweek we're expecting another cold front to bring us additional rainfall. Here's the current forecast for the 7-day period. We're currently expecting widespread 1 to 2 inch amounts, with some areas near 3 inches. These amounts will mainly be associated with those two fronts. In the long-term period, we are currently expecting above normal precip amounts in the western and northern portions of the area. It's worth noting that while one model shows an area of low pressure moving in early in the long-term period, another model has practically nothing. The models tend to deviate pretty significantly out at this range.
ENSO predictions, those about La Nina and El Nino, have changed since our last water resources outlook. Our chance for an El Nino this fall into winter are going down based on model output. Earlier model output had Pacific equatorial sea surface temperatures being near 1 degree above normal and now have crept down to about 0.7 degrees above normal. This anomaly needs to last at least 5 months to be officially designated an El Nino. Not great news for those in the southeast needing rain. However, it's not as bad as you think. The Climate Prediction Center's June forecast has equal chances for normal, above normal, and below normal rainfall in the southeast. This forecast has much to do with the neutral ENSO conditions. Models are not hinting one way or another, so this is the best we can do at this time for a forecast. Extended models are showing equal chances again in the summer seasonal period, with chances for above normal rainfall further west of our area. However, models are indicating above normal precipitation in most of the southeast for the fall time frame of September through November. The potential El Nino for that time could have some influence on the models, but traditionally, tropical season is not as active in El Nino years, so this above normal rainfall would likely be associated with frontal systems moving into the southeast. And so the bottom line, in the short term, active end of May. June transitions to convective season, so we'll see where that leads us. But it does look pretty good for most of the southeast. For Florida, their wet season will start, and in almost all years, they get at least 75% of their rainfall totals during that time. So we would expect them to see some improvement to their drought as we get into the summer season. As for the long term, it looks like a normal summer for the most part. We don't really see anything leaning us one way or the other, but potentially a wet fall, and we'll just have to see how that goes. Our next water resources outlook we plan to record on June 8th, 2017. We have not decided whether we're going to do that one live or not, but we'll make sure and let you know. It will be our tropical season briefing. By then, NOAA will have issued its tropical season outlook, and we'll be able to talk a little bit about how that outlook will affect our rivers and our conditions in the southeast. So we look forward to talking to you next month.